Before we begin, this broadcast is a fictional audio drama created for entertainment purposes. Good evening. I'm John Vale. We're coming on tonight with what began about 40 minutes ago as one of those stories that sounded like social media doing what social media does. A few people saying the moon looked strange. A few posts with circles drawn over craters and captions like, "Is it just me?" or "Why does the moon look sideways?" That kind of thing happens. It happens during eclipses. It happens when the moon is low on the horizon. It happens when smoke or haze changes the color. It happens when people take pictures through dirty windows or zoom too far in with a phone camera and the image gets distorted. Most of the time when people say the moon looks wrong, the moon is fine. The camera is wrong, the weather is wrong, the memory is wrong. And honestly, that was the assumption tonight. That was our assumption here. A strange little wave of posts, probably nothing. Then the first amateur astronomy groups started comparing images. Then a university observatory in New Mexico posted a short notice saying it was reviewing a minor lunar orientation discrepancy. That phrase got attention, minor lunar orientation discrepancy. It sounds almost boring if you don't stop and think about it, but it means the moon's visible surface features were not exactly where they were expected to be. Not by much. Not enough for most people to notice, but enough for people who watch the moon carefully to pause, enough for them to check their equipment. Enough for them to ask other people to check theirs. And now, within the last 10 minutes, we have confirmation from multiple observatories that the discrepancy is real. I want to say that carefully. The discrepancy is real. The explanation is not known. There is no emergency alert. There is no instruction for the public to take protective action. There is no report of abnormal tides. There is no report of lunar impact. There is no report of debris, explosion, flash, fragmentation, orbital instability, gravitational disturbance, or atmospheric hazard. The moon is still there. The moon is still bright. The moon is still moving through the sky according to its expected path. But the face of the moon appears to have shifted just a little, enough that people who know the lunar surface are saying the familiar features are not sitting exactly where they should be. And that is where we are starting tonight. Not with catastrophe, not with panic, not with the moon looking slightly wrong, which is somehow almost worse to say out loud. Let me give you the simple version. The moon does not show Earth all of its sides. It keeps the same general face toward us because of tidal locking. That means the familiar side, the side with the dark patches people call seas, the side with the features people have drawn and named and imagined faces in for thousands of years, is the side we see. Not perfectly the same every single night. There are small apparent shifts. There is a wobble, basically, called libration. That allows us to see a little around the edges over time. So the moon's face does appear to rock slightly across days and months. That is normal. That is expected. That is not what observatories are talking about tonight. The reports tonight say the visible features are shifting beyond expected libration. Again, not dramatically. Not yet. If you step outside right now and look up, you may not see anything strange at all. Most people will not. Depending on where you are, the moon may be low or behind clouds or not visible from your location. And even if you can see it clearly, you may not know the lunar surface well enough to notice a slight shift. But instruments notice, people who map the moon notice, and tonight enough of them are noticing the same thing, that this has become a live story. We have Mayor Ellison with us as well. Mara has been following the public reaction and some of the institutional messages. Mara, what are people saying right now?
The first thing is confusion, not fear yet, not mostly. Confusion, a lot of people are saying the moon looks normal to me. A lot of others are saying, I don't know what normal is supposed to look like. And that is part of the problem. Almost everyone knows the moon emotionally. Not everyone knows it visually in detail. People know the feeling of it. They know how it looks above a roof line, through a car window, over the ocean, from a backyard, from a bedroom when they can't sleep. They know full moon, half moon, crescent moon. They know bright moon, orange moon, cloudy moon. But if you ask most people to draw the actual features on the moon from memory, they probably can't. So tonight, people are standing outside looking at one of the most familiar objects in human life and realizing they may not know its face as well as they thought. That is unsettling all by itself. We're also seeing messages from amateur astronomers who are much more disturbed. They are using phrases like rotated, misaligned, feature drift, and not normal libration. Those messages have a very different tone. These are people who do know what they are looking at, and they do not sound comfortable. But the official statements are still controlled. The agencies are not saying the moon has turned. They are saying the visible lunar surface orientation is under review. That is the careful phrase, right now. Visible lunar surface orientation, and I think we should stay with that until there is stronger confirmation.
Right, visible lunar surface orientation. That is the official box for the moment. But I think people can already hear the larger question inside it. Has the moon moved? Has it turned? Has something about our view of it changed? And if so, how does that happen without everything else changing? Because that is the part that makes this strange. If the moon were physically rotating in a new way, you would expect consequences. You would expect measurable changes. You would expect orbital mechanics, tides, gravitational effects, maybe stress readings, maybe something in lunar laser ranging, something in satellite tracking. But the current reports say the moon's orbital position is normal, distance measurements normal, apparent path normal, tides normal, no abnormal seismic readings from lunar monitoring equipment, no reported change in Earth's rotation, no change in satellite operations, no change in gravity measurements. Again, these are preliminary reports. Everything is being checked, but so far the moon is behaving normally in every way except one. Its face appears to be moving. That sentence should not make sense, and yet it is the sentence scientists are trying very hard not to say too early. We have a statement now from the Meridian Lunar Survey Group. I'm going to read it in full. Quote, at 21:37 Eastern, independent observers reported visible alignment discrepancies involving multiple near-side lunar features. Preliminary review indicates feature positions deviate from expected libration models by a small but measurable degree. Instrument error, atmospheric distortion, image inversion, catalog overlay mismatch, and observer orientation error remain under review. No change in lunar orbit, lunar distance, tidal behavior, or Earth-Moon gravitational relationship has been identified. End quote. That is the first formal statement. Small but measurable, no change in orbit, no change in distance, no change in tides. No gravitational change identified, so the moon itself is not behaving like it shifted. That is the contradiction. And live coverage loves simple contradictions because they give people something to understand quickly. This one is simple. The moon looks like it is turning. The measurements say it should not be turning, and both appear to be true. We are getting a lot of listener messages already. I want to read one because I think it captures where most people are. This is from Elena in Queens. She writes, I'm looking at the moon right now from my fire escape. It looks like the moon. I feel stupid because I don't know how to tell if the moon is wrong. Elena, I think a lot of people feel exactly that, and there is no reason to feel stupid. Most of us do not walk around with a detailed map of the moon in our heads. We know it the way we know a loved one across a room, by feeling, by outline, by presence, not by measurement. And sometimes that is enough. Tonight it may not be. That is what makes this uncomfortable. You can look directly at the moon and still not know whether it has changed. You can be staring at the evidence and not be able to read it. That is a very human kind of helplessness. Another message, this one from Andrew in Flagstaff. I have been photographing the moon for 14 years. Mare Crisium is too far in. I don't know how else to say it. It's too far in. Now, for listeners who do not know lunar features, Mare Crisium is a dark oval-shaped feature near the eastern edge of the moon as seen from Earth. Under normal conditions, its position shifts slightly because of lunar libration, but experienced observers know the range. Andrew is saying it appears farther from the edge than it should. That matches some of the technical commentary we're seeing. Again, one listener message is not confirmation,
but it lines up with what observatories are reviewing.
Mare Crisium appears displaced. Other near-side features may also be drifting from expected positions, and that means the familiar face may be sliding, not vanishing, not breaking, sliding, as if the moon is slowly turning its cheek away from us. I know that sounds poetic. I don't mean it to. I mean that if the reports are accurate, the visible portion of the moon may be changing in a way that would gradually bring unfamiliar terrain to view along one edge, while familiar terrain shifts away along the other. That is what turning would look like. And I want to repeat, officials have not confirmed that word turning, but that is the word people are already using. The moon is turning. We are not there officially yet, but the night is moving in that direction. We have another technical note now from the Heliospheric Geometry Office. Quote, lunar range measurements remain within expected tolerance. No evidence of orbital deviation has been detected. Earth tide gauge networks report no anomalous lunar tidal forcing at this time. Apparent feature displacement remains under active review, end quote. So again, the physical relationship between Earth and Moon appears normal, distance normal, orbit normal, feature displacement under review. That is the pattern. The body is not moving wrong, the face is, And I understand why that sentence may bother people more than a simple disaster would. If the moon were falling, terrible as that would be, people could understand the category object moving, danger coming, physics breaking in an obvious way. This is stranger. This is the moon behaving normally while looking less like itself. It feels less like impact, more like recognition failing. Mara, I want you to talk a little about that because the listener messages seem to be less about danger and more about familiarity.
Yes. People are not mostly asking, are we safe? They are asking, is that really happening? And beneath that, I think they are asking, can something familiar become unfamiliar while I'm looking at it? That is a different kind of fear. Because the moon is not just an object in the sky, it is one of the few things everyone has had access to. Rich, poor, old, young, city, countryside, every country, every generation. The moon is shared in a way almost nothing else is shared. People have seen it during wars, weddings, hospital nights, first dates, long drives, funerals, power outages, childhood summers. It sits above all of that, quietly, almost too quietly, and because it is always there, people trust it without thinking about it. So when someone says the moon's face is changing, it reaches people before they understand the science. You don't need to know tidal walking to feel that the moon should not turn away. That is the phrase I keep seeing now, turning away. People are saying it like the moon is choosing not to look at us. That is not science. That is not what any one official is claiming. But emotionally, it is what this feels like. The oldest face in the sky is no longer holding still.
Thank you, Mara. The oldest face in the sky, that is what we are talking about tonight. And right now, officially, that face is under review. We have a new bulletin. This is from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. Quote, feature displacement has now been confirmed by 14 verified observation sites. Deviation exceeds expected libration range and cannot currently be attributed to image inversion, local atmospheric distortion, observer orientation error, or equipment misalignment. Observations are advised to begin continuous visible surface tracking. Public advisory remains unchanged. No protective action is recommended. End quote. That is major. Feature displacement confirmed. Deviation exceeds expected libration range. Cannot currently be explained by the usual image or observer errors. No protective action. No protective action. But the confirmation is there now. The face of the moon is not where it should be. Let me say it plainly, the moon's visible features have shifted beyond expected limits. That is confirmed. Whether that means the moon is physically rotating, whether our view is being altered, whether light itself is behaving strangely between the moon and Earth, whether some unknown process is changing what we see, none of that is confirmed. But the visible lunar face is changing, and once that is true, this story becomes very different, because the moon is not an obscure star. It is not a faint point in a telescope. It is the brightest familiar object in the night sky after the sun's light has left us. Everyone can look. Everyone can feel involved. Everyone can misunderstand. Everyone can panic. So the responsibility tonight is going to be keeping the facts clear while acknowledging that the facts are unsettling. We have another listener message. This is from Sam in Boise. My wife and I are outside. She says it looks normal. I say it looks like someone turned it a little. Now we're arguing about whether we ever knew what it looked like. That is probably happening in a lot of places right now. People comparing memory to reality, and memory is unreliable, but not meaningless. 1 billion unreliable memories can still tell you something has entered the public mind. The moon may not look wrong to everyone yet, but the idea that it could look wrong is now everywhere. And that idea changes the act of looking. From now on, every glance at the moon tonight is a test. People are not admiring it, they are checking it, and that alone is a loss. We have updated numbers. 29 verified observation sites now confirm feature displacement. The leading edge of unfamiliar terrain, that is the phrase being used in one technical note, may be becoming visible along the eastern limb. I want to explain that the eastern limb is the edge of the moon's disk as we see it from Earth. Because of normal libration, we sometimes see slightly more around certain edges, but the note says unfamiliar terrain may be appearing beyond the expected range. Unfamiliar to Earth-facing observers. Not unknown to science necessarily. We have mapped the far side of the moon through spacecraft. Scientists know what is there. We have images, we have data, but human eyes from Earth have never simply looked up and seen the lunar far side. Not directly, not hanging in the sky. If that is beginning now, This is historic. It is also physically difficult to explain without much larger changes. And again, those larger changes are not being detected. The moon is turning visually, but not gravitationally. That is the contradiction that keeps getting worse. We have a public clarification now. Quote, members of the public should be advised that camera orientation, phone image processing, zoom distortion, cloud motion, atmospheric turbulence, and lunar phase can affect perceived lunar appearance. Personal visual impressions should not be treated as confirmation of anomalous motion. Verified updates will come from recognized observation networks. Quote, good advice. Your phone camera may lie to you tonight. Your eyes may also lie to you, not because you are foolish, because once fear enters perception, perception starts looking for fear, so please do not post a blurry moon photo and announce that you have proof the moon turned halfway around. You probably don't claim the far side is fully visible if you are looking through clouds with a phone zoom. Do not scare people with guesses. The official confirmed fact is already strange enough. The moon's visible features have shifted beyond expected limits. That is enough. We have more from Meridian. Current displacement rate estimated at 0.6 degrees over the previous observation interval. Confidence moderate. Rate stability unknown. Okay, so they are now estimating rate. That means they are no longer only saying the features are displaced, they are measuring how quickly the displacement is changing. 0.6 degrees over the previous observation interval. For most people, that number means nothing. But the fact that there is a rate matters. A rate means movement over time. A rate means this is not just a frozen misalignment. The face is continuing to shift. The moon is still changing. I want to reset. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale with Mara Ellison. Tonight, multiple observatories have confirmed that the visible surface features of the moon have shifted beyond expected libration limits. The moon's orbit, distance, tides, and gravitational relationship with Earth remain normal according to current reports. There is no public safety warning and no recommended protective action. However, the displacement appears to be continuing, and observatories are now tracking a possible visible transition toward terrain normally associated with the moon's far side. In plain language, the moon appears to be turning. The world is not shaking, the tides are not rising, the moon is not falling, but its familiar face is moving out of place. That is where we are. We have another message from a listener. This one is from Carla in San Antonio. My grandmother used to call the dark marks on the moon the rabbit. She showed it to me when I was little. I just went outside and I couldn't find the rabbit. Maybe it's clouds, maybe I'm looking wrong. But I started crying before I knew why. Carla, it may be clouds, it may be angle, it may be the phase, it may be fear. But I understand the reaction. A lot of people do not know the official names of lunar features. They know a rabbit, a face, a man, a bowl, a footprint, a story someone older told them. That is what may begin to feel threatened tonight, not just geology. Inheritance. The moon is covered in human stories, and if its face changes, those stories lose their map. We have an update now from several tide gauge networks. No anomalous tidal readings. I repeat, no anomalous tidal readings. That is one of the most important practical updates. The oceans are not responding as though the moon's mass or position has changed. Coastal regions do not need to take protective action because of this event at this time. No unusual tide warning, no evacuation, no flood advisory tied to the lunar anomaly. That matters because if people hear moon turning, some will immediately think tides. Understandably, the moon and tides are connected in the public mind and in reality. But right now, the water is not confirming a physical lunar motion. The water says the moon is where it should be. The sky says the face is not. That is the split, and the split is what makes this so hard to understand. Mara, before we move deeper into this, I want you to give people something grounded. What should they actually do right now?
The practical advice is simple. Do not drive somewhere dangerous to see the moon. Do not stop in the road. Do not climb onto roofs. Do not trespass onto observatory grounds, university facilities, beaches after closure construction sites, or private property. If you want to look from somewhere safe, if you cannot see the moon from where you are not missing an instruction. You are not failing to protect yourself. There is nothing you need to do with your body right now except stay safe and stay calm. And maybe more importantly, do not turn this into a fight with the people around you. Some people will say it looks normal. Some people will say it looks wrong. Some people will be terrified. Some will joke because they don't know what else to do. Let people process it. Don't make your fear the loudest thing in the room. If children ask questions, keep it simple. Say scientists are studying the moon because it looks different tonight. Say the moon is still in the sky. Say there is no emergency instruction. Say we are safe right now. Do not say the moon is coming toward us. Do not say the world is ending. Do not say anything you only heard from a random stream with dramatic music over it. The moon is strange enough tonight without people making it cruel.
That is very good advice. The moon is strange enough tonight without people making it cruel. We have a new bulletin now. This is from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. Quote, apparent visible surface rotation continues. Estimated displacement now exceeds 1.4 degrees beyond expected libration range. Far side adjacent terrain visibility is under active verification. No corresponding change detected in lunar range, orbital period, tidal forcing, or Earth-facing gravitational measurements. End quote. There it is. Apparent visible surface rotation continues. That is the strongest wording yet. They are using the word rotation with the modifier apparent. Apparent visible surface rotation. The moon appears to be rotating, but not in the measurements that should accompany physical rotation. The face is turning without the body confessing. I know that is not technical language, but that is how it feels. The face is turning without the body confessing. We have just crossed into a new phase. And I want to be very careful moving forward, because if far side terrain becomes visible, people are going to expect dramatic things. They are going to expect lights, structures, messages, alien cities, military bases, every old rumor ever told about the far side of the moon. Let's not do that. The far side of the moon is not magical because we cannot see it from Earth. It is a real place. It has craters, basins, highlands, dust, rock, silence. We have imaged it. We know a lot about it. But there is a difference between knowing something through spacecraft and seeing it with your own eyes in the sky. If the far side begins to appear tonight, the shock will not be that it exists. The shock will be that the old agreement has broken. The moon was supposed to keep one face toward us, and now it may be showing another. We have another message from a listener named Malik in Detroit. He writes, I don't care if scientists already mapped the far side. I haven't seen it. My mother hasn't seen it. Nobody standing on Earth has seen it like this. That matters. Yes, it does. That matters. Science can know a thing before the human heart has made room for it. Tonight may be one of those nights where the knowledge was already there, but the experience is new, and experience changes people in a way data does not. We have confirmation coming in now from 2 observatories that terrain beyond the normal far edge visibility range is resolving. I'm waiting for the exact statement. Here it is, quote, far side adjacent terrain now visible beyond established libration maximums across verified optical systems. Extent remains limited. Mapping comparison ongoing, end quote. Far side adjacent terrain visible, limited extent. Mapping ongoing. That means we are not seeing the full far side, not even close. But we are seeing terrain that should not be visible from Earth under normal conditions. The moon is showing us something it has never shown us directly before. And still, no tides. No orbit change, no gravitational warning, just a face turning. I'm going to pause for a moment because I think this is the first truly historic confirmation of the night. The moon's hidden side has begun to appear from Earth. Not fully, not dramatically maybe, but enough. Enough to say the old view is changing, enough to say the boundary of the familiar moon has moved. Enough that tonight will be remembered if we have the luxury of remembering it calmly later, as the night the far side began to come around. Mara, I want to give you the last word in this part before we continue into the next phase.
There is something very intimate about the moon. The stars are distant in a way most of us cannot emotionally measure. They are beautiful, but they belong to forever. The moon is different. The moon feels near. It follows cars. It sits in windows. It hangs over rooftops. Children talk to it. People take pictures of it even though the pictures almost never look right. And all our lives, without knowing the science, most of us have treated it like a face. A face in the sky, not because it is alive, not because we believe that literally, but because human beings are always looking for faces. We find them in clouds, trees, outlets, old houses, shadows. And we found one in the moon. Now that face is turning away. That is the part people feel before they understand the rest. It feels like being looked away from. It feels like something that watched over every lonely walk, every quiet drive, every sleepless night, every childhood window has decided to show us its other side. And maybe there is a scientific explanation coming. Maybe there is a word for this that will make it smaller. I hope there is. But right now, for people standing outside under that light, it does not feel small. It feels like the moon has stopped being a memory and started becoming an event.
Thank you, Mara. The moon has stopped being a memory and started becoming an event. That is where we'll continue. For now, here is the latest. The moon remains in its expected orbit. The tides remain normal. No public protective action is recommended. But the visible lunar surface is rotating beyond expected limits, and terrain normally hidden from Earth has begun to appear. The moon is still above us, but it is no longer showing us the same face. Okay, we're still here. I'm John Vale. You're listening to Fictional Radio. And if you're just coming into this now, I know this is going to sound like one of those things you hear halfway through and think, no, I must have missed the reasonable part. There is a reasonable part. It's just not a comforting one. The moon is still in the sky. It has not fallen. It has not broken apart. It has not changed orbit in any way officials can measure right now. The tides are still normal. The distance to the moon is still normal. Satellite tracking is still normal. There are no evacuation orders, no shelter orders, no coastal warnings, no impact warnings. But the face of the moon is changing. That is now confirmed. The visible features on the moon have shifted beyond the normal range. And a few minutes ago, lunar observatories confirmed that terrain normally hidden from Earth has started to come into view. Not the whole far side, not suddenly, not like somebody flipped a coin over in the sky, but enough of it, enough that people who spend their lives mapping the moon are saying, yes, we are seeing ground that should not be visible from here. And I want to pause on that because it's easy for the words to get too technical and lose the feeling of it. There is part of the moon that no human being standing on Earth has ever looked up and seen directly. We have photographs, we have spacecraft maps, we have data. We know the far side is not a mystery in the old sense, but that's not the same thing as seeing it from your driveway. That's not the same thing as looking up from a sidewalk or a field or a balcony and seeing the moon show you a side it has never shown people before. That is what appears to be starting tonight. The moon is turning, or at least it looks like it is. And the reason I keep saying looks like is not because I'm trying to soften it. It's because the measurements are still fighting each other. The moon's face is moving. The moon's body, according to every practical measurement we have so far, is not. That is the problem. That is the part nobody knows how to say cleanly. We have a new bulletin from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. I'm going to read this slowly, and then I'll translate it into normal language. Quote, apparent visible surface rotation continues at an increasing rate. Estimated displacement now exceeds 2.8 degrees beyond expected libration range. Far-side adjacent terrain visibility confirmed across 42 verified observation sites. No corresponding change detected in lunar range, orbital period, tidal forcing, or Earth-facing gravitational measurements. Public advisory remains unchanged. End quote. Okay, so the shift is continuing. It may be accelerating. More of the hidden side is visible. 42 verified observation sites now confirm that, and still no change in distance. No change in orbit. No change in tides. No change in the gravitational relationship we would expect to change if the moon were physically rotating in a simple way. So the public advisory remains unchanged. No action, no protective action, no instruction to do anything except stay safe and not put yourself in danger trying to look at it. And I know that might sound almost absurd. The moon is showing the wrong face, and the official advice is basically don't stand in traffic. But that is genuinely the most useful advice right now, because whatever this is, there is no known thing you can do physically to protect yourself from it. There is, however, plenty you can do to hurt yourself reacting to it. So don't. Please don't. If you're outside, stay out of roads. Don't climb onto roofs. Don't drive out to some dark overlook if you're tired or scared or distracted. Don't trespass at observatories. Don't shine lasers at the moon. I cannot believe I have to say that, but apparently we do. Do not shine lasers at the moon. It will not help. We are getting a lot of messages from people saying they still don't see anything strange. That's normal. That does not mean the reports are fake. It also does not mean you're failing to notice something obvious. The moon is bright. It is hard to look at in detail with the naked eye. Depending on phase, clouds, haze, city lights, your eyesight, and where you are in the world, you may not see what trained observers are seeing. Some of you are also looking at the moon upside down through telescope optics, or sideways through camera apps, or at old reference images that are flipped. So please be careful with comparisons. If you are not sure, it is okay to not be sure. That may be the healthiest sentence of the night. It is okay to not be sure. You don't have to turn yourself into an astronomer in one evening. You don't have to prove the moon is wrong with your phone. You can hear the information, step outside if it is safe, look up for a moment, and then come back in. That is allowed. We're seeing local stations starting to pick this up everywhere now. Some are handling it well, some are not. I'm just going to say that. If you are watching a live stream with screaming music, red arrows, and someone yelling that the moon has opened, turn it off. Please turn it off. Nobody serious is saying the moon has opened. Nobody serious is saying the moon is hollow. Nobody serious is saying there is an invasion. The confirmed fact is already strange enough. The moon's visible surface is rotating beyond normal limits. That is the story. We do not need to decorate it with nonsense. We have a listener message from Grace in Colorado. She says, I know people are joking about the moon turning its back on us, but I looked up and that's exactly what it feels like someone you love turning away in the middle of a conversation. That is exactly the kind of message we're getting now, not just fear, hurt. Which sounds strange. Maybe how can the moon hurt your feelings? But it can, apparently. Because people have put a lot of private things into the moon without realizing it. Songs, prayers, memories, promises, long drives, bad nights, childhood bedrooms, people who aren't here anymore. And now the thing that held all those memories is changing in public. That is going to make people emotional. It already is. Mara, you've been watching the messages. What's the feeling right now?
It's less jokey now. That's the main change. At the very beginning, people were making jokes because the phrase "the moon looks wrong" sounds like something from a meme. You know, new moon update dropped. Things like that. That's fading. Not completely, but it's fading. Now people are sending very simple messages. My dad says it's wrong. My kids keep asking if it's still the moon. I don't know what I'm supposed to look for. There's one from a man named Theo that I keep thinking about. He says, my mother has dementia. She doesn't know what year it is most days, but she knows the moon. Tonight she said, that's not the one. That's not the one. That is such a small sentence, but it says so much. Because the moon is one of those things that reaches people who have lost other kinds of memory. It doesn't need language. It doesn't need explanation. It just appears, and some part of you says, yes, I know that. And tonight some people are looking at it and saying, no, I don't. Or not exactly, or not anymore. And I know we have to be careful not to make the moon into a person. It is not turning away because it feels something. It is not rejecting us. It is not choosing anything. But people don't experience the sky only as science. They experience it as company. And tonight, the company has changed its face.
Yeah, that's very well put. The company has changed its face. We have an updated public clarification now. This is from the Office of Civil Continuity, and I want to read it because it addresses some of the rumors directly. Quote, reports that the moon is approaching Earth are false. Reports that abnormal tides are occurring are false. Reports of imminent lunar impact are false. Current verified data indicates no change in lunar distance, orbital stability, or tidal forcing. The ongoing event concerns apparent visible surface displacement only. Residents should continue normal activity and avoid unsafe public gathering. End quote. Good. That needs to be said. The moon is not approaching Earth. The moon is not falling. There is no impact warning. There is no tidal warning. And if you see somebody posting a fake emergency alert telling coastal residents to flee inland, report it, ignore it, and do not share it. That kind of thing can get people killed, not because of the moon, because of panic. We have another technical update. Visible surface displacement now exceeds 4.1 degrees beyond the expected range. The rate is no longer being described as uncertain. It is being described as sustained apparent rotation. Sustained apparent rotation, that is the phrase. And again, apparent matters. It means what we see is rotating. It does not yet mean the physical moon is rotating in the normal mechanical sense. But for anyone standing outside, that distinction may not help much. If the face turns, the face turns. Whether the body agrees is a problem for scientists. For everyone else, the moon is changing. We're being told now that a larger section of farside terrain is visible along the eastern edge. Lunar mapping teams are identifying features that until tonight were known from spacecraft imagery only. One note says terrain comparison suggests visibility of portions of the far side highland margin beyond prior Earth-based observational limits. That is a cold way to say something very big. We are seeing more of the hidden moon, and the familiar near-side features are sliding away to make room for it. Mare Crisium is now significantly farther inward from the visible edge than expected. Mare Fecunditatis and Mare Tranquillitatis are showing measurable displacement. Some of the old familiar dark shapes, the ones people use to make the face or the rabbit or the man in the moon, are no longer sitting in the same relationship to the disk. So if you are looking up and thinking it's still the moon but the expression is wrong, that may be why. The features are there, but the face has changed expression. We have a report from a public observatory outside Tucson. A staff member wrote, We stopped letting visitors compare through the eyepiece because people were grabbing the telescope to adjust it. They kept saying the view was misaligned, the view was not misaligned. That is going to happen. People will assume the telescope is wrong before they accept that the moon is wrong. And honestly, that is reasonable. That is how sanity works. You question the instrument. First, you question your eyes. You question the app. You question the person next to you. You do not start by questioning the moon. But tonight, the instruments are agreeing. That is the part we keep coming back to. The instruments are agreeing. Mara, before the next bulletin, I want you to say something to people who are outside with kids right now because the messages are getting rough.
Yeah, that's very well put. The company has changed its face. We have an updated public clarification now. This is from the Office of Civil Continuity, and I want to read it because it addresses some of the rumors directly. Quote, reports that the moon is approaching Earth are false. Reports that abnormal tides are occurring are false. Reports of imminent lunar impact are false. Current verified data indicates no change in lunar distance, orbital stability, or tidal forcing. The ongoing event concerns apparent visible surface displacement only. Residents should continue normal activity and avoid unsafe public gathering. End quote. Good. That needs to be said. The moon is not approaching Earth. The moon is not falling. There is no tidal warning. And if you see somebody posting a fake emergency alert telling coastal residents to flee inland, report it, ignore it, and do not share it. That kind of thing can get people killed, not because of the moon, because of panic. We have another technical update. Visible surface displacement now exceeds 4.1 degrees beyond the expected range. The rate is no longer being described as uncertain. It is being described as sustained apparent rotation. Sustained apparent rotation. That is the phrase. And again, apparent matters. It means what we see is rotating. It does not yet mean the physical moon is rotating in the normal mechanical sense. But for anyone standing outside, that distinction may not have much. If the face turns, the face turns. Whether the body agrees is a problem for scientists. For everyone else, the moon is changing. We're being told now that a larger section of far-side terrain is visible along the eastern edge. Lunar mapping teams are identifying features that, until tonight, were known from spacecraft imagery only. One note says, terrain comparison suggests visibility of portions of the far-side highland margin beyond prior Earth-based observational limits. That is a cold way to say something very big. We are seeing more of the hidden moon, and the familiar near-side features are sliding away to make room for it. Mare Crisium is now significantly farther inward from the visible edge than expected. Mare fecunditatis and Mare tranquillitatis are showing measurable displacement. Some of the old, familiar dark shapes, the ones people use to make the face or the rabbit or the man in the moon, are no longer sitting in the same relationship to the disk. So if you are looking up and thinking, it's still the moon, but the expression is wrong, that may be why. The features are there, but the face has changed expression. We have a report from a public observatory outside Tucson. A staff member wrote, we stopped letting visitors compare through the eyepiece because people were grabbing the telescope to adjust it. They kept saying the view was misaligned. The view was not misaligned. That is going to happen. People will assume the telescope is wrong before they accept that the moon is wrong. And honestly, that is reasonable. That is how sanity works. You question the instrument first, you question your eyes, you question the app, you question the person next to you. You do not start by questioning the moon. But tonight, the instruments are agreeing. That is the part we keep coming back to. The instruments are agreeing. Mara, before the next bulletin, I want you to say something to people who are outside with kids right now, because the messages are getting rough. If you are outside with children, or if children are awake in the house and asking about this, you do not need to explain everything. You really don't. A child does not need apparent visible surface rotation beyond expected libration range. A child needs to know whether they are safe, so you can say, it is still far away. That's true. You can say, the ocean is not rising because of it, and nobody has told us to leave our homes. That's true. And if they ask why it is happening, it is okay to say, we don't know yet. Adults sometimes think, I don't know, will scare children. But sometimes pretending to know is worse, because children can feel the lie underneath it. Say it calmly, we don't know yet, we're listening, we're safe right now. Come inside if you're cold. That might be the best thing anyone can say tonight. Come inside if you're cold, because the moon may be strange, But your child still has a body, they still need a blanket, they still need water, they still need someone not to stare upward so long that they forget to be a parent.
Thank you. That's important, and honestly, not just for children. Come inside if you're cold. That's good advice for everybody tonight. We have a new bulletin. This one is marked priority. Quote, apparent visible surface rotation has accelerated. Displacement now exceeds 7 degrees beyond expected libration maximum. Far side terrain visibility increasing. No corresponding change detected in lunar orbital mechanics. Lunar laser ranging remains within expected tolerance. Tide gauges remain normal. Lunar relay assets remain operational. End quote. 7 degrees, that is no longer tiny. That is no longer something only specialists can argue about. 7 degrees of visual displacement is enough that serious amateur observers will clearly see the difference. Some ordinary viewers may begin to notice that the face looks wrong, especially if they are comparing to familiar mental images. The moon is still round, still bright, still the moon, but the old face is sliding out of center, and the hidden side is coming around. We are also getting the first reports of people using old photographs from their phones to compare. That may be useful emotionally. It may not be useful scientifically. Phone cameras distort the moon terribly. They sharpen it, they flatten it, they flip it, they process it, they lie confidently. So again, do not treat your camera roll as proof. But I understand why people are doing it. They want evidence that yesterday existed. They want to hold up a picture from last month and say, see, this was the moon when it still knew us. That is not science, but it is grief. And grief has its own kind of logic. We have another listener message. This one is from Hannah in Maine. She writes, I keep thinking about all the times I saw the moon and didn't care. I was busy. I was driving. I was mad about something stupid. I wish I had looked more. That one hurts, because a lot of people are probably feeling that now. You don't really look at something until it changes. You don't really hear a sound until it stops. You don't really know a place was home until it looks different. The moon has been so constant that we made it background. And now it has stepped forward. It has become news that is not something anyone wanted. We have a note from the International Lunar Coordination Desk advising media outlets not to use the phrase far side revealed yet. They are asking for partial far side adjacent visibility instead. I understand why far side revealed sounds like the whole hidden hemisphere is visible, and it is not. So we will use their phrasing. Partial far side adjacent visibility, it is a terrible phrase for radio, but it is accurate. The moon has not fully turned around, but part of what should be hidden is now visible, and more of it appears to be coming into view. We're now seeing reports of crowds gathering in city parks, beaches, university lawns, overlooks, apartment rooftops. Police in several cities are asking people not to block streets or stop on highway shoulders. Please listen to them. If you are driving and the moon is visible through your windshield, do not stare at it. I know that sounds obvious. It is apparently not obvious enough. Do not drive while trying to observe the moon. Pull over somewhere legal and safe, or wait until you get home. The moon has waited above humanity for a very long time. It can wait until you park. Another update. This is short. Observed displacement now exceeds 9.3 degrees. Acceleration persists. 9.3 degrees. The phrase acceleration persists is new. That means the rate of visible turning is increasing, or at least staying above what they expected from the earlier estimate. At this pace, if it continues, the far side terrain will become much more prominent within the next observation interval. We do not know if it will continue. It may slow, it may stop, it may reverse. Those are all possible. But right now, it is continuing, and it is getting harder to say this is subtle. Mara, what are you seeing from the public now?
The word people are using most is stranger. Not strange, stranger like a noun. The moon looks like a stranger. That exact sentence is showing up again and again, and it's interesting because the moon is still recognizable. It's not gone, it's not red, it's not cracked, it's not bigger, it's not falling. It's just unfamiliar enough that people feel betrayed by their own memory. There's also a lot of embarrassment in the messages, people saying things like, I'm crying and I know that's stupid, or I feel ridiculous being scared of the moon. I want to say it's not stupid, it's not ridiculous. This is one of the oldest objects in human attention. We have been looking at it longer than we have had cities, longer than we have had writing, longer than we have had any of the systems now trying to explain it. If that object changes in the sky, it makes sense that your body reacts before your intellect does. You are not silly for feeling something. Just don't let the feeling make decisions for you. Feel it, name it, stand somewhere safe, hold someone's hand if you need to, then breathe.
That's good. Feel it, name it. Stand somewhere safe, breathe. That may be the best public guidance we have at this point. We have a major update coming in. I'm going to read it once silently first. Okay. This is from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. Quote, visible far-side terrain now exceeds 5% of apparent lunar disk. Near-side feature displacement continuing. Apparent rotation remains inconsistent with measured orbital, tidal, and range data. Preliminary modeling suggests the observed lunar face may not correspond to a conventional physical rotation model. End quote. That last sentence is important. The observed lunar face may not correspond to a conventional physical rotation model. In plain language, the moon may not be turning in the way a ball turns. Something else may be happening. What we are seeing does not match what the moon's motions should do. And this is the part where the story becomes less about the moon moving and more about what is being shown to us. Because if the physical moon is not rotating conventionally, but the visible face is changing anyway, then the question changes. Not just why is the moon turning, but why is our view of the moon being changed, and by what? I want to be very clear. No agency has said this is artificial. No agency has said there is intelligence behind it. No agency has said something is controlling the moon, but they are now saying the apparent visual change may not match ordinary physical rotation. That means the visual surface and the physical body are no longer telling the same story. And when the sky tells two stories at once, people are going to believe the scarier one. So let's slow down. There may be natural explanations we do not understand yet. There may be optical or gravitational effects not yet identified. There may be measurement failures hidden somewhere in the chain. There may be something about the moon's reflected light that is changing. We do not know. But the phrase not conventional physical rotation is now in the record. And that is a turning point. No pun intended. I wish there were a better phrase. There isn't. We have an updated status, no change in lunar distance, no tidal anomaly, no earthquake pattern associated with the event, no atmospheric hazard, no orbital debris, no flash event detected, no protective action. But visible far-side terrain now exceeds 5% of the lunar disk. 5%. That may sound small. It is not small, not for the moon, not for a face that has held the same basic orientation for human history. 5% is enough to change the expression. 5% is enough to make people stare. 5% is enough to make the moon feel like it is becoming someone else. We're going to continue. If you are just joining us, the short version is this. The moon appears to be turning. The far side is beginning to show. The tides are normal. The orbit is normal. No public action is recommended. And scientists are now saying the visible change may not match ordinary physical rotation. That is where we are. The moon is still above us, but the face that has shown humanity for as long as humanity has been looking is no longer holding still. Okay, we're continuing. I'm John Vale. You're listening to Fictional Radio. And if you're just joining us, I'm going to try to do this cleanly because the updates are starting to come in faster now, and I don't want to make this more confusing than it already is. The moon appears to be turning. That is the plain sentence. The more careful sentence is that the visible lunar surface is undergoing apparent rotation beyond expected libration limits. But nobody talks like that when they're standing in a backyard looking up. So plainly, the moon's face is moving. More of the far side adjacent terrain is now visible from Earth. The visible portion is still limited, but it is growing. The old familiar features, the ones people know as the man in the moon or the rabbit, or just the dark patches they've seen their whole lives, are shifting out of their expected positions. The moon's orbit remains normal. The tides remain normal. The measured distance between Earth and the moon remains normal. There is still no public safety warning. There is still no protective action recommended. But the visual change is no longer subtle. That's where we are. And I know that sounds impossible in a very specific way, because with most disasters, you can sort of understand the category. A storm comes in, a fire spreads, a building collapses, a power grid fails, terrible things, but we know the verbs. This doesn't have a good verb. The moon is not falling, it is not breaking, it is not exploding, it is not coming closer. It is just turning or showing or changing what side it gives us. And I realize those words make it sound almost intentional. That is not what I'm saying. That is not what any one official is saying. But language is going to struggle tonight. It already is. We have a new bulletin from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. I'm going to read it once and then I'll go through it. Quote, visible far-side terrain now estimated at 8.6% of the apparent lunar disk. Near-side feature displacement continues at an accelerated apparent rate. Standard physical rotation models remain inconsistent with lunar range, tidal forcing, and orbital tracking data. No direct hazard to Earth has been identified. End quote. Okay, 8.6%, that is the number, 8.6% of the visible lunar disk now appears to contain terrain that should not be visible from Earth under normal conditions. And I want to be careful. That does not mean 8.6% of the full far side. It means 8.6% of the apparent face we see from Earth is now showing terrain from beyond the normal visible boundary. But even so, that is a lot. That is a lot for something that should not be happening at all. The second part matters too. Standard physical rotation models remain inconsistent. That means if you try to model this as the moon simply rotating like a ball, the rest of the data does not fit. The tides do not fit. The range measurements do not fit. The orbital tracking does not fit. So the moon looks like it is turning, but the things that should happen if the moon were physically turning are not happening. That is the contradiction. And that contradiction is getting larger. I'm seeing a note from one of our producers that people are asking a very simple question, and I'm glad they are, because it's the question I think everyone has. Can this be fake? Could this be some kind of mass misread? Could all of these observatories be wrong? The answer is, at this point, not in the simple way. A few social media videos can be fake. Absolutely, a phone camera can be wrong. Very easily, a single observatory can miscalibrate something, a single telescope can invert an image, a single operator can make a mistake. But dozens of verified observing sites, independent instruments, professional lunar mapping teams, tide gauges, laser ranging systems, orbital tracking networks, all producing the same split result. That is harder. The split result is what matters. The visible face is changing. The physical measurements are not. So no, this is no longer just a bad viral image. Something is happening. The question is, what kind of something? We have a listener message from Nia in Atlanta. She writes, I looked up and I don't know the moon well enough to know what's different, but I know I don't like looking at it tonight. That is probably where a lot of people are. You may not be able to identify a single lunar mare. You may not know east limb from west limb. You may not know what normal libration looks like. That's fine. But the mood has changed, and the way we look at the moon has changed. It's strange how quickly that can happen. An object can be familiar for your entire life, and then one headline, one confirmed update, one sentence on the radio can make it feel unfamiliar. You look up and you're not seeing only the moon anymore. You're seeing the possibility that it can become something else while you're alive to watch it. That is a hard thing to put back in the box. We have Mara Ellison with us. Mara, you've been following public reaction. Give us the human side of this, because the technical side is, it's starting to get pretty dense.
The public reaction is shifting again. Earlier people were confused, then they were scared. Now there's something else coming through. People are getting protective. That may sound odd, protective of the moon almost. There are messages saying, leave it alone, even though no one knows what it is. People are writing things like, put it back, or that's not ours to see, or I don't want to see the hidden side. And I think that's really interesting, because before tonight, most people probably would have said they wanted to see the far side from Earth. It sounds beautiful. It sounds historic. It sounds like discovery. But now that it's happening without permission, without explanation, it doesn't feel like discovery. It feels like intrusion. It feels like someone opening a door in your house that you didn't know was there. And maybe nothing dangerous is behind it. Maybe it's just another room. But the problem is you didn't open it. That's the feeling. People keep using household language. A door, a face, a window, curtains, someone turning away, someone looking back. We keep doing that because cosmic language is too big. It doesn't fit in the mouth when you're scared. And I think people are also reacting to the fact that the far side has always had a kind of boundary around it. Not a real one, exactly, because spacecraft have seen it. But an emotional boundary. The far side was the part of the moon that did not belong to the naked eye. It belonged to missions, maps, astronauts, machines, scientists. Now it's coming into ordinary sight, and people don't know whether to feel honored or violated. I'm seeing both. Some messages are saying, I can't believe we're alive to see this. Others are saying, I don't want to be alive for this. That's the split. Wonder and dread are happening at the same time.
Wonder and dread. That's exactly right. And I think that's why the tone is so hard tonight. If this were only beautiful, we would know what to do with it. If this were only dangerous, we would know what to do with it. But it's both, maybe. Or it feels like both. The moon is showing humanity something new, and nobody knows why. We have another update. This is from the Heliospheric Geometry Office, and I'm going to paraphrase part of it because the full note is very technical. They are saying there is still no evidence that the moon's mass distribution has shifted, no evidence that its center of mass has changed relative to Earth, no evidence of abnormal torque, no measurable change in the Earth-Moon gravitational relationship. In plain language, the moon is not acting like a physical body rotating under normal forces, which brings us back to the same impossible fork in the road. Either the moon is physically changing in a way that does not produce expected physical effects, or our view of the moon is being altered. Those are both bad sentences. Not bad as in doom, bad as in difficult, bad as in no one wants to be the person who says them into a microphone. But they are the options being implied now. Physical moon unchanged, visible moon changing. Something between those two things is not understood. We have a public advisory from the Office of Civil Continuity, quote, residents are reminded that the current lunar observation event does not require travel, evacuation, sheltering, or supply gathering. Public distress and unsafe observation behavior remain the primary immediate risks. Do not attempt to access restricted observatories, transmission stations, aerospace facilities, or coastal monitoring sites. End quote. Again, very practical. Don't rush observatories. Don't drive to restricted facilities. Don't gather supplies. Don't tell yourself that buying bottled water explains the moon. It doesn't. I understand the urge to do something physical when the fear is abstract. People want tasks. They want a list. They want to put batteries in a drawer or fill a tank of gas or stand in a line somewhere because action feels like control. But there is no action right now that changes the moon. There are only actions that keep you and other people safe. So do those. Stay off the roads unless you need to be on them. Let emergency workers work. Let observatories observe. Let your kids sleep if they are sleeping. And if you need to look safely. We have a new confirmed displacement number, 12.4 degrees beyond expected libration maximum, 12.4. Visible far side terrain is now estimated at 13% of the apparent disk. 13%. That is moving quickly, much more quickly than earlier projections. And we now have the first reports that ordinary viewers in clear conditions can see a change without magnification if they know the moon's face well. That is important. This is becoming naked eye noticeable for people familiar with the moon. Not everyone, not everywhere, but enough people, and once it becomes noticeable to ordinary eyes, the public reaction changes. We saw that in the last episode with the stars. Instruments carry the first part of the story. Human eyes carry the second. We are entering the human eye phase now. Several major lunar features are now displaced enough that people are noticing the face of the moon looking off center. That is not official terminology, obviously, but it is showing up in messages. The man in the moon looks turned. The rabbit is sliding. The dark patches are wrong. The left side looks too full. The edge looks unfamiliar. Again, some of these reports will be mistaken. Some will be people seeing what they expect to see. Some will be bad camera comparisons, but they are not all mistaken. That is the difference now. The public is catching up to the instruments. We have another listener message. This is from Paul in New Hampshire. He writes, I've looked at the moon through the same telescope since I was a kid. Tonight I kept trying to focus it because I thought something was wrong with the lens. Then my son said, Dad, it's not the telescope. That's the sentence. It's not the telescope, it's not the camera, it's not the app, it's not the clouds. At some point, the reasonable explanations run out, and then you're left with the moon. Mara, I know you have one message from a school teacher. Go ahead.
Yes. This is from a teacher named Alina. She writes, I teach second grade. Every year we do moon journals. The kids draw the moon for a month and learn the phases. I never realized how comforting that lesson was until tonight. The moon changes shape, but it does it in a pattern. Kids love patterns. Adults do too. Tonight feels like the pattern broke. That feels important because the moon does change. It changes all the time. Crescent, quarter, full, waning, waxing. It is not static, but it changes faithfully. That is why people trust it. The fear tonight is not change by itself. It is change outside the pattern. We can handle change when it keeps its promise. Tonight, the moon is changing in a way no one taught us to expect. And that is why people are scared, not because the moon is different, because the difference is not keeping time with us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Change outside the pattern. We have another bulletin now, and okay, this one is different. This is from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. Quote, Far-side terrain identification now includes multiple confirmed highland regions and basin structures previously not visible from Earth-based observation. Apparent rotation continues. Visible far-side terrain estimated at 18% of apparent disk. Near-side features continued displacement toward western limb. No corresponding orbital or tidal deviation detected. End quote. 18%. Nearly one-fifth of the visible moon now appears to show terrain that should not be visible from Earth. That is the first number tonight that really changes the emotional scale for me. One-fifth of the moon's face is becoming something else. The familiar side is not gone, not even close, but it is no longer dominant in the same way. The far side is no longer a sliver. It is becoming part of the face. And the old features are moving toward the edge, which means if this continues, the side humanity has always known will keep sliding out of view. I want to be careful with that. If this continues, it could stop, it could slow, it could reverse, but right now it has not. We have reports now that the phrase moon turns around is being used across major networks. That is not official language, but it is now the public phrase. And honestly, it is probably unavoidable. The moon turns around. It is simple. It is terrifying. It is not fully scientifically precise, but it captures what people are seeing. That is the phrase that will be remembered if this continues. Not apparent visible surface rotation, not far-side adjacent terrain visibility. The moon turns around. We have another civil advisory. This one is about coastal areas. Quote, coastal residents are advised that tide behavior remains within expected range. No abnormal lunar tidal forcing has been detected. Do not evacuate coastal areas unless instructed by local authorities for unrelated reasons. End quote. Good. Again, no tide danger. No coastal evacuation. No flooding caused by this event at this time. Please share that if people around you are worried, because the rumor mill is very bad right now. We are seeing fake tide maps, fake tsunami warnings, fake lunar impact countdowns, fake military messages, fake evacuation orders. Do not share screenshots without source links. Do not trust dramatic red banners unless they come from official channels. Do not let a stranger's edited image decide your behavior. The moon is strange. The internet is worse. Okay, new bulletin. Visible far side terrain, 22%. 22. Apparent rotation continues. Near side features are now described as significantly displaced from traditional Earth-facing orientation. That phrase basically means the moon's old face is no longer centered. The old face is off to the side. And the unfamiliar terrain is taking up more of the visible disk. People outside in clear areas may now see that the moon does not look like the moon they remember, not just experts. People. We have another listener message, this one from Imani in Baltimore. She writes, I showed my daughter the moon last week and told her people used to see a face in it. Tonight she said, where did the face go? I didn't know what to say. Where did the face go? That's the public question now. Where did the face go? And I don't know how to answer it except with the facts. The familiar features are shifting away from center. The hidden terrain is coming into view. The moon is still there, but its face is changing. We are hearing that several cultural institutions, museums, planetariums, and universities are starting emergency live streams not just to show the moon, but to show annotated comparisons with old images. That may help people understand what they are seeing, but again, be careful. Use trusted sources. Don't let someone with a filter and a scary soundtrack become your astronomy teacher tonight. That's maybe good advice in general.
I keep thinking about that phrase, where did the face go? Because for thousands of years, people have been putting faces on the moon. Not the same face everywhere. Different cultures saw different things. A man, a woman, a rabbit, a toad, a tree, a child, a thief, a saint, a story. But almost always, we looked up and found something human or living or familiar in that light. That says less about the moon than it says about us. We wanted the sky to look back with something we could recognize. And tonight, that recognition is slipping. The face is still there for some people, gone for others, changed for many. And I think that is why this feels intimate in a way a comet or eclipse does not. An eclipse is dramatic, but it follows rules. A comet visits, but it is always a visitor. The moon is more like a neighbor whose window is always lit. Tonight, that neighbor has rearranged the house while we were watching, and now the window is open to a room we were never supposed to see from here. Maybe there is nothing in that room. Maybe it is just dust and rock and ancient craters. But the fact that the room is visible now, without explanation, makes people feel exposed. That's the part I keep hearing. Not just that we are seeing the moon differently, that maybe something on the moon, or through the moon, or behind whatever this is, can now see us differently. I know that is not confirmed. I know, but people are feeling it because when a face turns, we instinctively ask what it is turning toward, or what it is turning to look at.
Yeah, that That is the question. What is it turning toward, or what is turning it? We have another update. This one is marked priority. Quote, apparent rotation rate increasing. Visible far side terrain now exceeds 28% of apparent disk. Near side features approaching western limb beyond historic observed range. Preliminary optical analysis has identified several high reflectance points within newly visible far side terrain. Confirmation pending. That is new. Several high reflectance points within newly visible far side terrain. Confirmation pending. Let's slow down. High reflectance points does not mean lights. It does not mean buildings. It does not mean cities. It means points that reflect more light than surrounding terrain. That can happen for natural reasons, fresh craters, bright ejecta, high albedo material, slopes catching sunlight, instrument artifacts, processing issues. So we are not saying lights. We are not saying artificial. We are saying newly visible far side terrain includes several bright points that analysts are checking. That is all. But I know what people are going to hear. They are going to hear something is shining on the far side. That is not confirmed. Not yet. We have a follow-up already. High reflectance points remain unresolved. Multi-site confirmation requested. Do not characterize as active illumination. In other words, don't call them lights. So we won't. Not yet. They are high reflectance points, bright spots, unresolved, under review. But they are on terrain that was not supposed to be visible from Earth, and the moon is still turning. I want to reset before we continue. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale with Mara Ellison. The moon's visible surface is undergoing apparent rotation beyond expected limits. The moon's orbit, distance, tides, and gravitational relationship with Earth remain normal. Far-side terrain now makes up more than a quarter of the apparent lunar disk. The familiar near side is shifting toward the edge. Officials have identified several unresolved high reflectance points in newly visible terrain, but they are not calling them lights. There is no public safety warning and no recommended protective action. In plain language, the moon is turning, the hidden side is coming into view, the old face is moving away, and now there are bright points on the side we were never meant to see from Earth. That is where we are. We'll continue. I'm John Vale. Mara Ellison is here with me. And the moon is still turning. That is the sentence now. I don't think there's any way around it anymore. The official language is still careful. It's still apparent visible surface rotation and far side terrain visibility and no corresponding orbital deviation. All of that matters. We're going to keep saying it because it matters. But for the person standing outside right now, for the person looking through binoculars or a telescope, or just standing in a driveway with their arms crossed because they don't know what else to do. The moon is turning, the old face is sliding away, the hidden side is coming into view, and now we have these unresolved bright points, not lights officially, not active illumination, not structures, not anything like that yet, just high reflectance points on the newly visible far side terrain. That is where we left off. And I want to slow down a little here because this is the part of the night where imagination can run ahead of facts very, very quickly. High reflectance points can be natural. They can be sunlight catching a crater rim. They can be fresh impact material. They can be exposed rock. They can be geometry. They can be a processing artifact that looks exciting for 10 minutes and then gets corrected by someone who knows what they're doing. So we are not calling them lights. I'm going to say that again. We are not calling them lights. The official note says do not characterize as active illumination, and we are not going to. But people are going to. They already are. The word lights is everywhere now. It's moving faster than the correction. It always does. The correction has sensible shoes. The rumor has wings. So let's keep our feet on the ground here. The moon appears to be turning. More than a quarter of the visible disk now shows terrain beyond the historic Earth-facing view. Several bright points have been detected in that terrain. They are unresolved. That means we do not know what they are. That is the fact, not the exciting version. The fact, we have a new bulletin from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. I'm going to read this exactly. Quote, visible far side terrain now estimated at 34% of apparent lunar disk. Apparent rotation continues. High reflectance points remain unresolved but have been confirmed across 6 calibrated optical systems. Spatial arrangement is under review. No active illumination classification has been issued. End quote. Okay, 34%. That means more than a third of what we are seeing when we look at the moon tonight is now terrain that should not be visible from Earth in this way. More than a third, the familiar near side is still there, but it is no longer the whole face. It is no longer even the clear center of the face. It is being pushed visually toward the edge. And the bright points, they have now been confirmed by 6 calibrated optical systems. Still unresolved, still not called lights, but confirmed as points. And there is a phrase in that bulletin I want to point out. Spatial arrangement is under review. That means they are looking at the pattern. They are not saying there is a pattern. They are not saying it is artificial, but they are looking at the arrangement, and I think everybody listening understands why that phrase changes the room a little. A bright point is one thing, several bright points are another. Several bright points arranged in a way that makes people start checking distances between them. That is where the mind goes somewhere it probably should not go too quickly. But it goes there anyway. We are getting messages from people asking if they should keep children inside. There is no official instruction to keep children inside because of danger from the moon. There is no radiation warning, no tidal warning, no atmospheric warning, no atmospheric warning. But if the moon is upsetting your child, yes, bring them inside. That's not an official emergency instruction. That's just care. You don't have to make a child watch something because it's historic. History is not always good for children in real time. Sometimes history is something they can learn about tomorrow after breakfast when the room is warm and someone they trust is speaking calmly. So if your kid is scared, close the curtains, that's allowed. If you are scared, close the curtains, that's allowed too. The moon will still be there whether you look or not. And I know that sentence used to feel comforting. Tonight, maybe less so. But it is still true, Mara. You've been watching the messages around these bright points. How are people reacting?
Yeah. People are doing what people do. They're zooming in too far. They're drawing lines between dots. They're posting screenshots with red circles. They're saying city, base, signal, landing lights, all of that. And I get it. I really do. Because once you hear bright points on the far side of the moon, your mind almost refuses to leave them alone. It wants a shape. It wants a reason. It wants to turn dots into something. That's not stupidity. That's how people are built. We did it with stars. We turned random points into hunters and bears and queens and scorpions. We turned the moon into a face. We see patterns because patterns used to keep us alive. But tonight, that instinct might hurt us, because a pattern can comfort you even when it's false, or scare you even when it's false. And right now, we just don't know. What I'm seeing in the messages is this weird mix of like excitement and dread. People don't want to admit the excitement part, but it's there. Someone wrote, "I'm terrified, but I can't stop looking." Another person wrote, "I feel like we're about to learn something we don't get to unlearn." That one stayed with me because that might be the real fear tonight, not just that the moon is changing, that the moon may show us something and then we have to live with knowing it. And I know that sounds dramatic, but people are feeling it. They're feeling like a curtain is opening and nobody asked if we were ready.
Yeah. Nobody asked if we were ready. That's exactly the mood. We have another update now. This one is from the Heliospheric Geometry Office. Quote, lunar orbital and range measurements remain stable. No deviation detected in tidal forcing, Earth rotation, lunar relay assets, or near-lunar spacecraft tracking. Apparent surface rotation remains visually confirmed and mechanically unresolved. That's a new phrase. And it's probably one of the most honest phrases of the night. The visual event is confirmed. The mechanism is unresolved. In plain language, we can see it happening. We do not know how it is happening. That is where the science is. And that is also, I think, where the fear is. Because people can handle, we don't see anything. They can handle, we see something and know what it is. But we see it and do not know how it can be happening is a very different kind of fear. That is the kind of fear that makes people keep refreshing the same page or staring through the same window or asking the same question in different words because the first answer didn't settle anything. And the question tonight is still, how can the moon's face turn if the moon itself is not behaving like it turned? We do not have that answer. We have another number. Visible far side terrain, 41% of the apparent disk. 41. Apparent rotation continues. Near side features approaching western edge of the visible disk. High reflectance points now confirmed across 9 optical systems. And there is one more line. Preliminary spatial review indicates non-random distribution cannot be excluded. Okay, let's be careful. Non-random distribution cannot be excluded does not mean artificial. It does not mean deliberate. It does not mean the dots spell something. It means the arrangement may not be random, or at least they cannot yet rule out a non-random arrangement. Natural features can be non-random. Geology can make patterns. Sun angle can make patterns. Crater chains can make patterns. Ridges can make patterns. So again, do not jump to cities. Do not jump to someone turning on the porch light. But the bright points are not going away as an artifact. They are now part of the event. The moon is turning, the far side is showing, and on that side there are bright points in an arrangement that is now under review. That is the clean version. We are seeing a lot of public observatories closing their doors now. Not all. Some are still open, but several are stopping public access because people are crowding, arguing, grabbing equipment, demanding to see the bright points, demanding zoom levels that the equipment can't provide. Please do not do that. I know people feel like if they can just look closely enough, they'll understand. But the people at those observatories are not gatekeepers hiding the moon from you. They are trying to work, and they are human beings. A person at a telescope cannot explain the impossible faster because you yell at them. Let them work. Let them breathe. Let them keep the equipment safe. If a facility closes, leave. Don't make this worse on the ground. Mara, I want to ask you something more personal here, if that's okay.
Yeah.
When you look at the moon tonight, and I know we have a feed in here, we're not outside, but when you look at it on the monitor, does it still feel like the moon to you?
Yes and no. That's the honest answer. It still has the brightness. It still has that soft, cold look. It still feels like the thing you'd call the moon without thinking. But then I look too long, and it stops settling in my mind. Like when you see someone you know after they've changed their hair or lost a lot of weight or aged suddenly, you know it's them. You're not confused exactly. But your brain keeps trying to update the picture and failing for a second. That's what it feels like recognition with a delay. And I hate that because the moon is one of the few things I never thought I'd have to re-recognize.
Recognition with a delay, that's good. And I think a lot of people listening are having that same experience. The moon is still the moon, but the recognition is delayed. We have a new official update. Quote, visible far-side terrain now estimated at 47% of apparent disk. Near-side terrain no longer constitutes majority of visible face. Apparent rotation continues. High reflectance points confirmed across 12 systems. Pattern analysis ongoing. No public hazard identified. End quote. Near-side terrain no longer constitutes the majority of the visible face. That is a historic sentence. The familiar side of the moon, the side humanity has always seen from Earth, is no longer most of what we see. The hidden side has become nearly half the face, and depending on the exact mapping, the near side may now be less than half of the visible disk. That means we have crossed a threshold. The moon in the sky is now more unfamiliar than familiar. Not completely, but enough. Enough that the old face is no longer dominant. I don't know how to make that sound normal. It isn't. We have messages coming in from all over now saying the same thing. That's not the moon. Now, factually, it is the moon, but emotionally, people are not wrong to feel that something has changed. The thing in the sky is the moon. The face in the sky is not the one we inherited. That is maybe the best way to say it. The thing is the same. The face is not. We have a listener message from David in Oregon. He writes, my grandfather was a sailor. He used to say you can lose everything, but if you know the moon, you are still somewhere. I looked tonight, and I felt nowhere. That's a hard one. I felt nowhere. That is the kind of sentence this event is producing. Not, I'm afraid it will hit us. Not, I'm afraid the tide will rise. But I felt nowhere, because familiar sky is part of place. We think of place as ground, address, street, city, country. But place is also what is above you. It is the angle of sunlight, the constellations, the moon over a particular roof, the way night looks in your part of the world. When the sky changes, place changes. Even if your feet have not moved, we have another bulletin, and this one is short but important. Far side high reflectance points remain fixed relative to newly visible terrain. They are on the moon's surface, or at least appearing fixed to it. They are not lens artifacts drifting independently. They are not stars behind the moon. They are not random camera noise. They remain fixed relative to the surface. Again, that does not mean artificial. It does mean real enough to track. The bright points are part of the visible lunar event. Follow-up point count currently estimated at 37. Resolution insufficient for classification. 37 bright points. Resolution insufficient. No classification, 37. I know that number will spread, so let's hold it correctly. 37 high reflectance points on newly visible far side terrain, fixed relative to the surface, unresolved, unclassified, not cities, not lights, not signals, not yet, 37 bright points. We have another public advisory, quote, do not attempt to signal the moon using lasers, spotlights, radio equipment, drones, aircraft, or unauthorized transmission devices. Such actions are unsafe, ineffective, and may interfere with scientific monitoring or aviation safety, end quote. Again, I cannot believe this needs saying, do not try to signal the moon, do not fly drones toward the moon. That is not how drones work. Do not point lasers into the sky. Do not set up homemade transmitters because you saw a post saying the moon is listening. You are not helping, you are making noise. And tonight, clean observation matters. Clean signal matters. Clean public behavior matters. Mara, I'm seeing messages that people are starting to pray at the moon, talk to it, apologize to it. What are you seeing?
Yeah, a lot of that, and I don't want to mock it. I know some people will, but I don't want to, when something impossible happens to an object people have loved quietly their whole lives, they're going to speak to it. That's not necessarily belief. Sometimes it's just grief, looking for a place to go. People are saying things like, come back and please stop, and I'm sorry, and don't turn away. And no, the moon is not a person. But people talk to graves too. They talk to empty rooms. They talk to pets that can't understand the words. They talk to storms. They talk to cars that won't start. Talking to something does not always mean you think it can hear you. Sometimes it means you need to hear yourself care. So if people are outside saying things to the moon, I don't think that's the danger. The danger is when someone claims the moon answered. That is where we need to be careful. Because right now, fear is looking for replies. And if someone invents one, a lot of people will believe it.
That is an important line. Fear is looking for replies. And we have to be very careful about that because now we have bright points on the far side and people are going to want those bright points to mean something. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We don't know. But wanting meaning is not the same as receiving a message. We have a new technical update, visible far side terrain, 53%, 53. That means the far side terrain is now more than half of the apparent disk. The moon has crossed the halfway point. The visible moon is now mostly the side humanity was never able to see from Earth. The old near side has moved into the minority of the visible face. I'm going to say that again because it matters. The visible moon is now mostly far side. The face we knew is no longer the main face. I'm going to take a breath because that one lands. The moon has turned far enough that what we are seeing from Earth is now more hidden than familiar. There is no public safety warning. The tides remain normal, the orbit remains normal, the distance remains normal, but the moon, as a human object, as a thing in the sky that people recognize, has changed. It has become something else in front of us. We have more on the bright points. Point distribution forms multiple partial arcs and one approximately linear sequence across elevated far-side terrain. Natural terrain reflection explanation remains possible. Active illumination not confirmed, multiple partial arcs, one approximately linear sequence. Natural explanation possible, active illumination not confirmed. This is going to be difficult to keep grounded because arcs and a line of bright points on the far side of the moon is exactly the kind of thing people will turn into a story. We are not there yet. We are not saying structures. We are not saying roads. We are not saying lights. But the arrangement is no longer being treated as random noise. It is being mapped. We have a message from a listener named Sophia. She writes, I thought seeing the far side would feel like discovery. It feels like being caught looking in someone's window. That is very close to what Mara said earlier. It feels intrusive. It feels like maybe we are seeing something we weren't supposed to see, which is strange because no one on Earth chose this. We didn't open the window. It opened toward us. And still people feel guilty looking. That is a very human reaction. Even when something reveals itself, you can feel like you are trespassing. Another update now. The International Lunar Coordination Desk says media outlets should prepare for potential full far-side presentation within the next observation interval if apparent rotation rate persists. That means if this continues, the moon may fully turn its far side toward Earth. The old near side may rotate out of view completely again if the rate persists. It may not, but that is the projection within the next observation interval. That's where we are now. We are not talking about a slight shift anymore. We are talking about the possible complete replacement of the moon's visible face. Mara, I want to bring you in before the hour ends. How are people reacting to the halfway point?
It's grief now. That's the biggest thing. At first it was confusion, then fear, then wonder, then this almost embarrassed sadness. Now it's grief. Because people understand that if the moon keeps turning, the face they grew up with may disappear from the sky. Not forever, maybe. We don't know. But for now. And people are realizing they never said goodbye to it. That sounds dramatic, I know. It's the moon, not a person. but the messages feel like goodbye messages. My mother showed me that face. My brother and I used to argue about the rabbit. I proposed under that moon. I drove home from chemo looking at that moon. My dad used to call me when it was full. These are not scientific messages. They're memory messages. And that's what the moon is full of for people. Memory, so when the face changes, the memories don't vanish, but they lose their place to sit. I think that's why people are crying. Not because they think the moon is alive, because something that held their memories is moving away. And I don't know. I don't know how you tell people not to grieve that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just tell them to stay safe while they do.
Stay safe while you grieve the moon. That is not a sentence I expected to say in my life. But here we are. We have one last update before we move to the next part. Visible far side terrain, 58%. Apparent rotation continues. Near side features are approaching the western limb with several major familiar dark regions partially out of view. High reflectance points remain visible. Pattern analysis ongoing, no tidal anomaly, no orbital deviation, no gravitational disturbance detected. The moon is still physically where it should be, but visually, emotionally, historically, it is somewhere else now. We're going to continue, and the next phase may bring the full far side into view. The part of the moon that never looked at Earth from the sky is turning toward us. Okay, we're continuing, and this may be the final major phase of what we've been covering tonight. The moon is turned far enough that the far side terrain now makes up more than half of the visible disk. The old near side, the face humanity has always known from Earth, is sliding toward the western edge. The major familiar dark regions are partially out of view now. Some of the shapes people knew as the man in the moon, or the rabbit, or just the face they grew up with, are no longer whole. The moon is still in its expected orbit. The moon's distance from Earth remains normal. The tides remain normal. There is no impact warning, no coastal warning, no gravitational anomaly, no public protective action, and I know I keep saying those things. I'm going to keep saying them because when the sky looks wrong, people need to know what parts of the world are still behaving. So here it is again. The moon is not falling. The moon is not approaching Earth. The oceans are not rising because of this. The ground is not shaking because of this. The physical systems we can measure are still stable. But visually, the moon is almost no longer the moon we knew. And I don't know how else to say that. The object is the same. The face is not. We have a new bulletin from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. I'm going to read it now. Quote, visible far side terrain now estimated at 68% of apparent lunar disk. Apparent rotation continues. Near side terrain is receding beyond western limb. High reflectance points remain visible and fixed relative to far side terrain. Pattern analysis ongoing. No active illumination classification has been issued. End quote. 68%. So more than 2/3 of the visible moon is now terrain that was never part of the ordinary Earth-facing view. And again, those bright points are still there, high reflectance points. Not officially lights, not officially structures, not officially artificial, but they remain visible. They remain fixed to the far side terrain, and they are being mapped. That is where we are. We're getting a lot of messages now that are, they're hard to read, not because they're graphic or anything like that. They're just sad. People saying goodbye to the moon, which sounds strange if you're only thinking literally. The moon is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere, but the face is leaving. The familiar part is leaving. And for a lot of people, that is enough to feel like loss. One message here says, I didn't know I had a favorite side of the moon until it wasn't there. That's from Rena in Portland. And yeah, I think a lot of people are learning that tonight. You can love something casually for your whole life and not know how much you loved it until it changes. The moon was always free, always above us, always arriving without asking anything. And because of that, maybe we didn't treat it like something that could be lost. Now the old face is almost gone, and millions of people are realizing they were attached to it. We have another update. Visible far side terrain, 74%. 74%. Near side features now remain visible only as a narrowing region along the western limb. The familiar side is becoming an edge. That's the simplest way to say it. The familiar moon is no longer the face. It is becoming the edge. Mara, I want to bring you in here. What are you seeing from listeners now?
It's quieter. The messages are still coming in very fast, but they're shorter now. Earlier people were asking questions. Is it real? Is it safe? What are the bright points? What does this mean? Now it's more like, I'm outside. My mom is with me. We're watching. I don't know what to say. There's one from someone named Felix that says, my grandmother used to say the moon followed her home from work. Tonight she said, it's going somewhere else now. That one, yeah, that one stayed with me because that's what it feels like, doesn't it? It feels like the moon is not just turning, it feels like it is leaving a relationship. Again, I know that's not science. I know the moon doesn't have feelings. It doesn't owe us a face, but we made a relationship with it anyway. Humans do that. We make relationships with places, with houses, with songs, with cars, with old coats, with trees, with stars, with a rock in the sky that reflects sunlight back at us. And when those things change, the feeling is real, even if the relationship was one-sided. So I don't think people are being irrational for grieving. I think they are being human. What worries me is the next part, because sadness can turn into searching, and searching can turn into believing almost anything. People are already saying the bright points are messages. They're saying the moon is waking up. They're saying the far side is inhabited. They're saying this was hidden from us. They're saying a lot of things, and maybe some of those fears come from a place that makes sense, but we do not know. We just don't. So I would say this to anyone listening: don't let your grief make a story faster than the facts can arrive. Let yourself feel it, but don't hand your fear to the loudest person online. Not tonight.
We have another bulletin now. This one is marked priority. Quote, visible far side terrain now estimated at 81% of apparent disk. Near side terrain limited to western limb sliver. High reflectance point count revised to 49. Pattern analysis indicates repeating angular intervals among several point clusters. Natural terrain reflection explanation remains under review. Active illumination not confirmed. End quote. Okay, 81%, the old near side is now basically a sliver, and the bright point count has been revised upward. 49 repeating angular intervals among several point clusters. That means some of the points are spaced in a way that caught analysts' attention. Not proof of artificiality. Not proof of intention. Natural formations can repeat. Crater chains can repeat. Fractures, ridges, sunlight angles, survey processing, all of that can produce patterns. But the phrase repeating angular intervals is not nothing. It means they are measuring the spacing. They're looking for structure, and they have enough to mention it publicly. That is a big change. We are receiving reports that several major agencies are asking media outlets not to zoom into or enhance the bright point clusters live without expert context. That's probably wise, because if you digitally sharpen a blurry lunar image enough, you can make almost anything look deliberate. You can make dots look like roads. You can make noise look like writing. So if you're watching a stream right now and someone is heavily enhancing the image, changing contrast, adding outlines, and then announcing they found proof of a city, be skeptical. Please, be skeptical. The real information is already unsettling. We do not need fake certainty. We have another listener message. This is from Imani in Baltimore again. She wrote earlier about her daughter asking where the face went. She says, my daughter just said the moon looks like it turned around because someone called its name. I don't know why children always find the sentence that cuts straight through everything. The moon turned around because someone called its name. That is not what we know. That is not what happened as far as anyone can say. But it captures the feeling, because turning usually implies attention. If I call your name, you turn. If you hear something behind you, you turn. If you want to face someone, you turn. And now the moon is turning. So the question becomes unavoidable, even if it is not scientific. What is it facing, or who? We have a new technical advisory, quote, observed apparent rotation remains inconsistent with physical rotational acceleration. No measurable torque event identified, no associated mass redistribution detected. No lunar seismic confirmation of global physical rotation. Visual surface presentation continues to diverge from mechanical lunar models. End quote. Visual surface presentation continues to diverge from mechanical lunar models. That is the cold, technical version of the thing we have been saying all night. What we see and what the moon physically appears to be doing do not match, and now they are diverging more. The visual moon is turning. The mechanical moon is not giving the evidence it should. So we are left with something stranger than a turning moon, a moon that appears to change faces without moving the way a body should move. Visible far side terrain now estimated at 88%. 88. Near side features are nearly gone from the visible disk. The old face is almost out of sight. We are minutes, maybe less, from what officials are calling full far side presentation, if the rate persists. And right now it is persisting. Mara, before that happens, I want to ask you something. And if the answer is no, just say no. But do you want to say anything to the old face before it goes?
I don't know. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous. I know it's not a person. But yeah, I guess I do. I think I would say thank you. That's all. Thank you for being there when nobody else was awake. Thank you for making dark roads feel less empty. Thank you for sitting in hospital windows and bedroom windows and over water and over fields and over people who needed something quiet to look at. Thank you for being the same when everything else wasn't. And I'm sorry we didn't look more. I'm sorry we got used to you. I'm sorry it took this to make us pay attention. That's what I'd say.
Thank you, Mara. I think a lot of people would say the same. We have the update. Visible far side terrain, 94%. Near side terrain reduced to a thin western margin. High reflectance points remain visible. Pattern analysis ongoing. No public hazard identified. No active illumination classification. No known cause. 94%. The face is almost gone. I'm watching the monitor now. And I know it's a feed. I know it's not the same as standing outside, but even through the feed, it is hard to look at. Not because it looks monstrous. It doesn't. That may be the worst part. It still looks like the moon. It is still pale, still round, still quiet, still dust and crater and sunlight, but it does not look familiar. It looks like a moon from another sky. A correct moon in the wrong world, or the wrong moon in the correct one. I don't know. That's not official language. That's just me trying to say what my eyes are doing, and my eyes do not like it. We have another bulletin, quote, full far side presentation expected imminently. Near side features exiting visible western limb. All observation partners are advised to preserve raw imaging continuously. Do not interrupt capture during transition. End quote. Full far side presentation expected imminently. The old near side is leaving the visible disk. Observation partners have been told not to interrupt capture. That means they are watching for the exact moment the face changes completely. The exact moment humanity loses the old view. We are getting reports from public gatherings that people are counting down. Please don't. I understand the impulse, but please don't turn this into a spectacle countdown. This is not a rocket launch. This is not New Year's Eve. This is not entertainment inside the story. If you are outside with people, just let the moment be quiet. Let people feel it however they feel it. No one needs a countdown for the moon turning away. Visible far side terrain, 98%. Near side features nearly absent. The bright point clusters are now more central on the visible disk. That matters. As the far side turns into full view, those bright points are no longer near an edge. They are now on the face, the new face, and with the old features gone, those points stand out more. They are not washed into the familiar dark Maria anymore. They are sitting on highland terrain, pale ground, craters, ridges, and there are 49 of them, maybe more. The count may change, but 49 confirmed high reflectance points, some in arcs, one in an approximate line, repeating intervals under review, still no classification, still no active illumination. But now they are visible on the moon's new face. We have confirmation. I'm going to read it. Quote, full far-side presentation confirmed across verified optical systems. Near-side lunar features no longer visible from Earth-facing observation. Apparent rotation has stabilized. The lunar far side now constitutes the full visible lunar disk. End quote. Full far side presentation confirmed. The near side is gone from view. The moon has turned around. The side of the moon that faced humanity for all of recorded history is no longer visible from Earth. The far side is now facing us. The rotation has stabilized. The moon has stopped turning. It is holding the new face. I'm going to take a moment because there is no way to make that sound small. The moon has turned around. The old face is gone. The hidden side is facing Earth. And the motion has stopped. There is no public hazard identified. No tide change. No distance change. No gravity disruption. The moon is not falling. The moon is not coming closer. But the face that watched us from the sky is gone. And the face that never watched us from Earth is watching now. Mara, I'll give you a moment if you wanted.
I don't have much. It's strange. It's strange because I thought when it finished, maybe it would feel like an answer. Like, okay, now it has turned. Now we know what we're looking at. But it doesn't feel like an answer. It feels like the question finally faced us. That's all.
Yeah. The question finally faced us. We have new analysis on the high reflectance points. This is from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. Quote, high reflectance point count revised to 64 points remain fixed relative to far side terrain. Pattern analysis indicates multiple organized geometries inconsistent with random crater albedo distribution at current confidence threshold. Active illumination remains unconfirmed pending spectral review. End quote. 64 points, multiple organized geometries inconsistent with random crater albedo distribution at current confidence threshold. Active illumination still unconfirmed, so they are still not saying lights, but they are now saying the pattern does not look random according to current analysis. That is a major statement. Multiple organized geometries, 64 bright points on the far side of the moon now facing Earth, and they appear organized. I'm going to say the quiet part carefully. This does not mean a city. This does not mean a base. This does not mean life. This does not mean intelligence. But the arrangement of bright points on the newly revealed face of the moon is no longer being treated as natural background. That is the fact. And every person on Earth who can see the moon tonight is now looking at a face covered in points that may be arranged. We have a signal advisory now. This is new, quote, unusual narrowband reflection detected in Earth-Moon signal environment. Source localization under review. Signal appears phase-locked with lunar surface geometry. Transmission classification not issued. End quote. Unusual narrowband reflection, Earth-Moon signal environment, phase-locked with lunar surface geometry. Transmission classification not issued. Okay, let me try to say that like a human being. Something unusual is being detected in radio or signal monitoring between Earth and Moon. They are not calling it a transmission. They are not saying it is a message. They are saying it appears tied somehow to the Moon's surface geometry. That could mean reflection. It could mean an instrument issue. It could mean something natural. It could mean a lot of things. But in the context of the Moon turning around and organized bright points on the far side, this is significant. We have another update already. Signal reflection detected by multiple independent receivers. Pattern repeats at fixed interval. Content analysis pending. Still not a message, still not a transmission, but repeating, Mara.
Yeah,
This is where fear is going to look for replies.
it already is.
Right, so let's say it clearly. A repeating signal pattern has been detected. It has not been decoded. There is no confirmed message from the moon. Do not believe anyone posting a translation right now. There is no translation yet. There may not be anything to translate. A pulse is not automatically a voice. We wait, we verify. We do not invent words and put them in the moon's mouth. We have a public advisory from the Office of Civil Continuity. Quote, residents are advised to disregard unverified claims of lunar messages, voices, signals, or hostile intent. No official communication from the moon or lunar surface has been confirmed. Essential services remain operational. No protective action is recommended. End quote. Good, no confirmed lunar message, no confirmed voice, no confirmed hostile intent, no protective action. That is the official status. We have new signal analysis. I'm reading this fresh. Quote, repeating narrowband reflection has resolved into modulated sequence. Sequence is being compared against natural radio reflection models and artificial signal criteria. Preliminary analysis indicates non-random structure. No semantic content confirmed. End quote. Modulated sequence, non-random structure. No semantic content confirmed. That means the signal has structure. It is not just noise, but they do not know if it means anything, at least not yet. The bright points remain visible. The far side remains facing Earth. The apparent rotation has stabilized. The moon is holding this position, and now a structured repeating signal is being detected in the Earth-Moon environment. No message confirmed. No cause known. No hazard identified. We have a listener message. This is from Theo, the same person who wrote about his mother with dementia, saying, that's not the one. He writes, she looked at it again and said, now it sees us. That may not be true. It may only be a frightened sentence from a frightened human being looking at a changed moon, but it is what a lot of people are thinking. The old face looked like it watched over us. The new face looks like it is looking at us. That difference may be impossible to measure, but everyone can feel it. We have another signal update. This one is marked restricted technical, but released for public accuracy. Quote, modulated sequence repeating at 11-second intervals, cross-correlation with known natural lunar radio reflection phenomena, negative at preliminary threshold, sequence contains repeated block structure. Linguistic interpretation not advised. End quote. Repeating every 11 seconds, not matching known natural lunar reflection phenomena at preliminary threshold, repeated block structure do not interpret linguistically. Again, no message yet, but repeated block structure, that is moving closer to something. I do not want to say communication. I will not say communication until officials say it, but this is moving closer. Mara, how are people reacting?
They're scared. I mean, that's the simple answer. They're scared in a new way. Before, people were scared because the moon was changing. Now they're scared because it might be responding. or because something might be using it, or because maybe the turning was not the event, maybe the turning was preparation. That's the feeling I'm seeing. People keep saying, it turned to face us, not it turned to face us. And I think that little phrase is doing a lot of damage right now, because it makes the moon feel like a doorbell, like something rang, and the moon answered. Again, I know that is not official, I know that's not science, but people are not built to calmly watch the sky form a face and then hear a repeating signal from it. Nobody is built for that. So I think the best thing to say is stay with what is confirmed. The moon's far side is visible. There are organized bright points. There is a repeating signal pattern. No message has been confirmed. No danger has been identified. You are allowed to be afraid, but don't let fear finish the sentence before the facts do.
We have another update. Oh, okay, I'm going to read this exactly. Quote, sequence has resolved into repeated symbolic data blocks, translation confidence low. Multiple independent analysis teams report recurring three-part structure. Public release pending interagency review. End quote. Repeated symbolic data blocks. Translation confidence low, recurring three-part structure, public release pending. So they are analyzing it now as symbolic data. That is the strongest language yet. Again, translation confidence low. Public release pending, but the phrase is symbolic data blocks, not noise, not reflection only, symbolic data. The studio is very quiet right now. I know I've said that in other broadcasts, but it really is. Nobody wants to be loud over this, because the question has changed again. It was, why is the moon turning? Then what are the bright points? Now, what is the signal saying? And maybe the most frightening possibility is that it says something simple, not a long message, not a warning, not a speech, just something short enough that everyone understands. We have an Office of Civil Continuity Advisory telling the public not to gather at military bases, radio telescopes, observatories, aerospace facilities, or government offices. That means people are already doing that. Please do not. There is nothing at the gate of a radio telescope that will help you. There is nothing a security guard at a lunar monitoring site can tell you that we cannot wait to hear through proper channels. Do not put yourself in danger. Do not turn fear into a crowd. We have another signal update. Three-part structure stable. Candidate semantic mapping under review. Repetition interval unchanged. Sequence appears synchronized with high reflectance point geometry. Sequence synchronized with bright point geometry. That means the signal pattern and the arrangement of the bright points may be related. That is very significant. The points on the moon and the repeating sequence may be part of the same system. Again, may be under review. But that is what the bulletin says, synchronized with high reflectance point geometry. We have a new public statement from the International Lunar Coordination Desk. It's short, quote, preliminary data supports classification of the narrowband sequence as structured signal activity. Communication intent has not been established. Content release pending verification, end quote. Structured signal activity. Communication intent not established. Content release pending. So now it is a structured signal, not just reflection, not just noise, structured signal activity from or through the moon's new visible face. I'm going to reset. You are listening to Fictional Radio. I'm John Vale, here with Mara Ellison. The moon has completed an apparent visible rotation. The lunar far side is now fully facing Earth. The familiar near side is no longer visible. The moon's orbit, distance, tides, and gravitational measurements remain normal. 64 high reflectance points have been identified on the far side terrain, arranged in multiple organized geometries. A repeating narrowband sequence has been detected in the Earth-Moon signal environment and is now classified as structured signal activity. No communication intent has been established. No public hazard has been identified. No protective action is recommended. In plain language, the moon turned around, the hidden side is facing us, there are organized bright points on it, and now there is a signal. That is where we are. We have the content release. It just came in. I'm going to read the note first. Quote, preliminary symbolic mapping has produced a repeating three-part phrase. Confidence, moderate. Semantic interpretation, provisional. Public language release authorized due to global circulation of inaccurate translations. End quote. Okay, they are releasing it because false translations are already spreading. That makes sense. Here is the provisional phrase. I'm going to read it exactly as provided. Face restored, observation transferred, subjective visible. I'll read it again. Face restored, observation transferred, subject visible. That is the provisional translation of the structured signal. Confidence, moderate, semantic interpretation, provisional. But that is what officials have released. Face restored, observation transferred, subject visible. I want to be very careful here. We do not know who or what generated the signal. We do not know whether the phrase represents language as humans understand it. We do not know what subject visible means. We do not know if subject means Earth. We do not know if observation transferred means the moon's visible face is changed from our perspective or from another perspective. We do not know if face restored refers to the moon, to the far side, to some surface system, or to something else entirely. But the words are now public. Face restored, observation transferred, subject visible. Mara.
I don't like it. I know that's not analysis. I know. But I don't like it. Subject visible is the part. That's the part everyone is going to hear, because subject doesn't sound like a place. It sounds like something being looked at, something in a test, something under observation. And if the signal is coming from the moon or through the moon, and the far side is now facing Earth, then everyone is going to think the subject is us. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that is a bad translation. Maybe subject means surface. Maybe visible means something completely different. But people will hear it as, we can see you now. And I don't know how you walk that back.
No, I don't either. We have another official clarification. Quote, the provisional phrase should not be interpreted as confirmation of hostile intent, biological presence, artificial lunar habitation, or active surveillance. Semantic uncertainty remains significant, end quote. So no hostile intent confirmed, no life confirmed, no surveillance confirmed. Semantic uncertainty remains significant. That is important, but the words are already out. Subject visible. That cannot be unheard. We have reports from public gatherings now that people are leaving. Not all of them. Some are staying, some are crying, some are praying, some are filming. But a lot of people are going inside. That feels different from earlier. Earlier, people went outside to see. Now people are going inside to not be seen. Again, no one has confirmed that anyone is watching us. But that is what the phrase did. Subject visible. It made being outside feel like being observed. It made moonlight feel like attention. We have another signal repeat. Same phrase, no change. Face restored, observation transferred. Subject visible. The signal is repeating. It has not expanded. It has not answered questions. It has not varied. It is simply repeating the same three-part phrase. And the high reflectance points remain fixed. The moon remains stable in its new orientation. The far side is holding. We are receiving another technical note. Apparent lunar surface presentation stable, no reverse rotation detected. Near-side features remain absent from Earth view. Structured signal persists. No reverse rotation. The moon is not turning back, at least not now. The old face remains hidden. The new face remains. The signal persists. Mara, one more thought before I close this segment.
I keep thinking about all the times we called it our moon, like ownership, like affection, like something close enough to belong to us. And tonight it feels like maybe we were using the wrong word. Maybe it was never ours. Maybe it was just near us. And I know that sounds bleak, but I don't mean it only that way. Sometimes realizing something does not belong to you makes you see it more honestly. The moon was never a lamp we hung in the sky. It was never a face made for our comfort. It was a world, a real world, and now that world has turned aside toward us that makes it feel less like a companion and more like, I don't know, like an instrument, like a station, like an eye. I hate that word, but it's the one people are using, an eye. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe it is still only rock and dust and light and some impossible signal we do not understand. But the feeling has changed. The old moon felt like it watched over us. This one feels like it is watching us.
Thank you, Mara. That is where the world is emotionally right now. The old moon felt like it watched over us. This one feels like it is watching us. We have one final bulletin for this segment. Quote, structured signal continues at fixed interval. Full far side presentation stable. High reflectance geometries remain unchanged. No direct hazard identified. Cause unknown. End quote. Cause unknown. That is the last official phrase we have. Cause unknown. The moon turned around. The far side faced Earth. The bright points organized across the surface. A signal repeated. Face restored. Observation transferred. Subject visible. And the cause is unknown. I want to remind everyone listening that this is Fictional Radio. This broadcast is a fictional audio drama created for entertainment purposes. But within this story, within this hour, the world has changed in a way that does not require fire, impact, invasion, or explosion. The moon is still there. It is still bright. It is still silent to the naked ear. It still rises over houses, streets, oceans, hospitals, fields, highways, and bedrooms. But the face is different now. The side that watched human history has turned away. The side hidden from all ordinary human eyes has turned toward us. And every 11 seconds through the quiet between Earth and Moon, the same phrase repeats, face restored, observation transferred, subject visible. By the end of tonight, the moon still hung above Earth, but it no longer looked like something watching over us. It looked like something watching us good night.